Hello and welcome back. So, in this class, we will be discussing a very important topic, that is the 19th century British idea of India and the ideology of colonialism. So, this is again a very important foundational topic in your study of Indian English literature and the development of Indian literary scene. So this topic will prove as a background to further studies in literatures in India and the development of English language as well. So, as you know, this is a very broad topic, and we can actually go on talking on this topic in an endless manner. But in spite of doing that, we will be taking a very brief approach to discuss this particular topic, as we have other topics to cover as well. So we will be very briefly discussing this topic. So let us now start with the British views of India, or what were the British thinking about India. So in this section, let us now turn our attention to the prevailing British views of India during the 19th century. So it was a period marked by the zenith of British colonial rule, meaning the British colonial rule was at its peak. So in this lecture, we will examine three key factors that shaped these views of Britishers and how they informed the broader colonial ideology. So the first and foremost thing that constitutes the idea of India to the Britishers is this can be explained with the concept called as the white man's burden. The white man's burden. So this prevalent belief, popularized by the poem of the same name by Rudyard Kipling, asserted that Europeans possessed a moral obligation to uplift and civilize less developed societies, meaning it was the duty of the Britishers, it was the duty of the Europeans to civilize the uncivilized world. For example, Indians, okay, to civilize them, it was their duty and it was their burden. The British viewed India as a chaotic land in desperate need of their intervention. The justification for this intervention extended beyond mere betterment forever. The British firmly believed in the superiority of their form of government, their Christian faith, and their social order. They felt a divinely ordained duty to spread these elements throughout the world. Furthermore, there was a constant fear of European rivals gaining influence in India, thus pressuring the British to establish themselves as a dominant power. And apart from this, we have another concept called as Orientalism that again plays a very important role in shaping the idea of India in the Western world. So, Orientalism, this intellectual movement, heavily influenced by scholars like Sir William Jones, portrayed India as a stagnant, mystical, and lost in the sands of time, while British scholars romanticized certain aspects of Indian culture, such as its ancient traditions and spiritual wisdom. They simultaneously viewed it as inferior to their own rational and scientific civilization. So this contradictory view allowed the Britishers to position themselves as both respectful admirers and rightful rulers of India. So, and one more important thing in this particular section is the economic opportunity or the financial gain that the Britishers had in their intention to colonize the India. So, India's vast resources, fertile land, and established trade routes were a major draw for the British Empire. The Industrial Revolution had created a massive demand for raw materials like cotton, and India was a perfect source. And additionally, India's large population presented a tantalizing potential market for British manufactured goods. The British implemented policies that prioritized these economic goals, often at the expense of India's own development. So, Britishers were using India as a source of raw material, and they were again exporting. They were again exporting the finished goods, the ready-made goods to India, because India was a huge market, right? India's population was always much higher than the European one. So India was again a source of raw material and also a market. So in a way, we see a kind of double exploitation of this particular country. So let us now move forward. Okay, so in the next section now, let us discuss the colonial ideology and the relationships between the relation between colonizer and the colonized. And by colonizer, we mean the white people here, the Europeans, and colonized are nothing but the Indians, the native people. Okay, so there was a mission that they named as civilizing mission. So the British believed that they were on a divinely ordained mission. Divinely ordained meaning they were commissioned by the God himself to bring order, progress and modern values to India. So this was their mission, and who gave them this mission? The God himself. So this concept, often referred to as civilizing mission, justified British rule and painted them as benevolent guardians guiding India towards a better future. So they justified their intervention in India by saying that they're like a messiah, they're like a messiah who has come to India to save India, to civilize India, to bring on some modern changes and save India from barbarity, from destruction. But however, this narrative obscured the self-serving nature of British colonialism. The imposition of Western legal system, completely replacing existing institutions and customs, disrupted traditional ways of life and often proved ineffective in Indian context. But the ways of British, the ways of European functioning or European law, they were different, and the context of India was entirely different, right? So the rules and regulations made by European countries or European people, they were not particularly suitable to Indian situations, to Indian context. So their way of governance, their way of legal system was not going along with the Indian way. So similarly, the education system focused on promoting British culture and values with limited regard for India's rich intellectual heritage. So while doing so, even in the field of education, we see that more emphasis was given on the British etiquettes and their culture, whereas sidelining the native culture, the India's rich intellectual heritage. And one more important feature we see is divide and rule. So you have been studying this particular topic even in your history books. So let us see this again now. The British were acutely aware of India's vast diversity, encompassing a multitude of religions, ethnicities, languages, and social structures. So they exploited these existing divisions to weaken any potential resistance to their rule. So Britishers already knew that okay, India is a very diverse land, and each part of India has their own identity and their own culture, and they saw this as a loophole to break into India, and they started to divide the Indians among themselves on the basis of language, on the basis of their culture, on the basis of their religion. So this again proved to be one of the most important measures taken by the Britishers to gain control over the entirety of India. Okay. So lastly, let us see the one more concept is there, that is of racial superiority. So this concept of racial superiority was deeply ingrained in 19th century British ideology. The British viewed themselves as belonging to a superior race endowed with greater intelligence, cultural refinement, and political prowess. So this belief permeated the colonial administration. British officials occupied most positions of power while Indians were relegated to lower administrative roles. Social interaction between the races was strictly limited, reinforcing a rigid social hierarchy and fostering resentment among the Indian population. So, right from the beginning of the intervention of Britishers in India, Britishers had this notion of superiority of their race of themselves compared to the Indian population. They viewed themselves as belonging to a superior race of a superior intelligence. They viewed themselves as more intelligent beings, more rational beings, more scientific beings than the native population, and that in a way justified their intervention into the Indian landscape. That in a way gave them the power, gave them the what is that justification to exploit India and to make any kind of modification, any kind of changes in the law and order in India. So again, this was the lecture. I hope I have been able to cover at least some points in this particular lecture. And if you have liked this particular video, please subscribe to our channel and comment down your views, and let us know which are the other topics that you want to cover, that you want us to cover. And thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you.